You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now, your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I got 15 minutes to rant, so here we go. The Corey Holcomb show resumed tonight, and this is a follow-up to the previous episode that I did, talking about the disrespect of Corey Holcomb to one Zoe Williams. And this show tonight, I mean, there was a lot of whole-ass stuff in this show tonight. I'm not gonna get into the details, but it was a bad look for Corey, a bad look for D, a bad look for Craig Smith, who's one of my favorite up-and-coming comedians, and a bad look for Marcus. It was a show that was mostly spent shitting on Zoe, of course, and, you know, kind of dry snitching on certain things going on with Zoe. But what I really want to talk about with this show tonight is the idea of the yes man and why you need to avoid the yes man. But for you to be able to avoid the yes man, you need to be able to recognize the yes man. And if you look at this Corey Holcomb show, especially in recent years, especially tonight, you see a bunch of yes men on a show. And some of these yes men are grown-ass men and a grown-ass woman. And I asked a question on my previous video, and by the way, thanks for everyone who checked out the previous video, who gave me likes, gave me comments, gave me a lot of views. I appreciate it. I really do. But these are examples of things that we got to talk about as Black people in the Black community. We got a bunch of yes men hanging around, and they give these so-called leaders, so-called bosses, they give them the impetus, right, to be assholes. Now, the truth of the matter is, and this is true for all of us, this is the average truth for all of us, is that we find peace in the support by others. When others support us, we find a certain peace in that, right? We prefer acceptance over criticism. That's just a human trait. But we go too far with it. What we end up doing is we end up surrounding ourselves with people that support our ideas, good, bad, and different. Listen, having people that support you is critical. I have people who I sound my ideas off, right? Bouncing ideas off of them is what, you know, sometimes it's that thing, that little bit of energy that makes you pull the trigger on a thought. I have that personally. They're not yes men people though. They will criticize the shit out of me if I come with some random spoons type idea. If I come on some bogus kind of thinking, they will push me out about that. And that's what you need. You don't need yes people around you. You need trusted people around you. Right? Having people that support you is critical. Trusted people around you who support is critical. Being able to bounce ideas off them, like I said, is what makes you sometimes pull the trigger on a thought that you were uneasy about or uncertain about. Having these type of people, supportive, trustworthy people around you, can take the weight off your shoulders, make you feel less anxious about something you've been thinking about doing or uncertain about doing it or not. So we get that. It's critical to have, to surround yourself with people that support your ideas. But there's an issue that can occur when you take it too far. The issue is when the people around you don't provide criticisms as they have become too supportive. What we saw last week with Zoe and Corey was a case of Zoe finally getting to the point to be critical. And because Corey is so used to them usually being yes men and going along to get along, or just being quiet and let Corey run off at the mouth, Zoe actually stood up, and ironically stood up actually really for Darlene. Darlene is not one of my people, so I don't care too much for her. But look at what happened tonight. Darlene was in fact on the show. Zoe really got in most of that problem last week, but for the most part, he was kind of stepping in, taking up for Darlene in a sense. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Darlene in a second. The point I want to make right now is that people tend to surround themselves with these yes men who don't provide criticisms as they become too supportive. I'm going to talk about why in a second. You got to understand something, black people. It's just as important to have people around you that stop you from making, say, a bad decision as those who support you when you have good ideas. A bad idea can lead you to severe self-destruction. You gotta have people around you who tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, mine now. Check that. You sure you want to do that? You know you're done fucked up, right? You need those people around you. Having yes men around you is a bad thing. And the truth of the matter is, you, the listeners, you, the people who view like the 5150 show and whatever show you're watching or whatever situation that you're in, you need to be able to know when to recognize these yes men. Why? Because sometimes we need people to protect us from ourselves. A guy like Corey, when that Alex Thomas guy, or whatever his name is, said Corey is an angry, bitter comic, there's reasons for that. Your name has gone around now. Your actions and activities have gone around. You need someone in your corner to protect you from yourself. You see, what a lot of people don't get, man, confidence is a good thing, but confidence can be a misguider. Confidence can misguide you. Confidence can set you on a course of destruction if it's not put in check. You want to find people that are willing, trusted people. Again, I'm being very specific here. Find people that you trust and let those people, give them the range to where they're willing to disagree with you. And you don't attack them for disagreeing with you. You don't see them as jealous or envious, any of that old bullshit. In fact, because a person criticizes you and doesn't agree with everything you say, to call them jealous and envious, I like to call that low energy behavior. Go back in one of my previous podcasts, you'll see I talked about low energy behavior. Listen, people, I heard a preacher say this one time and it resonated with me. A dead thing can flow down a river. It takes a living thing to go against the current. A dead thing, a thing with no to low energy, can flow with a river. It takes something with energy to go against it. You want to be a person, you want to be a high energy person. And you want to have a high energy outlook on life. Any old dead thing can go with the flow. You got to learn to take criticism from trusted people, right? Take that criticism and take it seriously. Because why? Yes, men will create a bad time for you down the road. They will yes you to destruction. What I saw from Craig and this fella Marcus tonight was embarrassing as a man. Even if for whatever personal reasons I have, and I'm gonna talk about some of those personal reasons in a second. Even if I had some personal reasons why, I wanna still hang around Corey, I don't wanna fall out because I'm looking at my career and this, that, and the other, I wouldn't have shown up tonight. I would have called Corey and told him, nah, not tonight. I'll be back next week. I'd have let a little time pass. If I'm D, who Zoe was really taking up and protecting you, after Corey was shitting on you and have been nitpicking at you for weeks now. If I'm D, I'm not showing up tonight. D showed, and again, she's not my people, so I don't care. But D showed herself to be kind of a hoe tonight. The little couple of dollars Corey's, throwing at you behind the scenes, you just couldn't turn that little dough down. And so you sat up there and tried to pretend to be quiet and try not to read the comments where people was telling you in the comments you ain't shit for being there, right? Because in truth, Zoe got into that shit really because of how Corey was going at you. He was Captain Saver Zoe. And that's why I gave Zoe wrong. But yes, men will lead you to destruction if you don't check it. When it runs amok, you won't know who to be angry with first. You'll be confused. Maybe you blame yourself first, but eventually you're gonna lash out at the people around you. And you're gonna feel that, hey, maybe I need to change the people around me, right? This is what I talked about last week with the Scarface movie. It's kind of how Scarface ended up alone. Spoilers, by the way. Listen, folks, as people who need to be focused on building our health, wealth, relationships, right, and getting our community together, in building a nation, a strong nation, we got to start to learn to accept the painful truth now rather than have the major regret later. Don't be afraid of criticism. Don't surround yourself with people who won't be critical of you. If you're not careful, that will lead you to destruction. And Corey is going to end up in destruction. And the thing about it is, when you start crossing 50 and all those ages did it, there ain't too many second chances again. As you saw tonight, he's up there begging Kevin Hart for a lick. You're teasing Zoe about when he hits a lick, he'll pay you back the money, but you're there begging Kevin on your show, Kevin Hart, for a chance. As you age, you don't get too many second chances again. Learn to accept criticism now, or you will regret it later. And the thing is, you got to know how to spot the yes men. Because sometimes you really do have people around you because you like them, you gel with them, they seem supportive of your ideas, but you got to recognize when there's a yes man around you. Because you don't want them to egg you on to some self-destruction. How do you spot the yes man? We could use the 5150 show tonight as an example of yes men. If you observe Craig Smith, again, I like Craig Smith, I like his show, Craig Fox, but there's a little whore to these guys. I'm here to tell you. These guys, so how do you spot it? You see Craig doing this all the time. These guys lower themselves to the person's thought that, you know, who they're being yes men to. They lower themselves. They'll say stuff. Well, for example, Craig Smith. You know, Corey is an OG in the game. He's a legend, and blah 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 blah. I'm not saying Corey is not those things necessarily, but when Corey is wrong, he's wrong, legend or not. And the reason why these guys like Craig Smith, Marcus, and these guys will go and sit up there and do this stuff is because, honestly, I know play like it isn't true, and how I know it is true is because if someone didn't ask you a question and you defend, you know, something early on without being asked about it, it's because you know you're guilty of it, right? So Craig Smith and them will be like, I don't need no one, and I stand on my own 2 feet. Bullshit. You guys are around that show, right? In fact, Craig Smith has a better show than Corey Holcomb show. Tell me I'm lying. It's a better show than Corey Holcomb show. It's a funnier show than Corey Holcomb show. But why would Craig and them be on there? Remember, Craig, people came to know Craig for being on the 5150 show. That's why most people check out his podcasts. There's a benefit for him to be on the 5150 show. And guys like Craig, they want the perks of guys like Corey keeping them around. There's visibility perks. There's the perk if Corey thinks you're ready, he may take you on the road and open up for him. There's perks, and they don't want to burn those bridges. That's yes man business. Again, the yes man holds you to be successful and in high esteem. They see you as someone or somewhere they want to reach. They're not going to disagree with you, so that they could be on the outside of the success, on the outside of the favor, on the outside of the perks. They're not going to do that. But rest assured, the damage is going to come and the blame is going to be put on them. When Corey gets ready, he'll find some, something to nail them to the cross with. This is the lesson you should learn. Have people that you trust around you, and if you trust them, you should be able to take their criticism when they disagree with you, and it shouldn't turn into a drama. And you yourself need to recognize these people. You got to sit back some days and say, wait a minute, this dude or this woman never disagrees with nothing I say. I pitched an idea to rent out spoons, and they were hee-hee and hollering over that. And speaking of hee-hee and hollering, you could mistake Marcus for Arsenio Hall laughing at Eddie Murphy jokes sometimes. I mean, this whole ass dude is just hollering and hee-heeing, and ain't nothing funny like that going on. That's yes men business. Don't have yes men around you. I had 15 minutes to rant, and that's my time. Before I go, just want to tell you guys that this show is a part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. Please make sure to hit the like on this video, subscribe to the channel, the Bitter Medicine Podcast channel, subscribe to KWAZ Radio. You'll see the link in the description, and check out the other shows on the network. It's the Harsh Reality Podcast. It's the Pro-Black Perspective. Don't be afraid of intellectualism. All right, go and check out some of the other shows. There's also the Queen's Council. All right, go check out some of the other shows on the network. All right, I appreciate you guys. hopefully we don't have to revisit this conversation again. But chances are Corey's going to jump on someone again in the future. And my early bet is that it's going to be Marcus first. Because he had some comment about Marcus being touchy-feely or something a couple weeks ago. And we know, and we could all see D has something against Marcus where she doesn't like him close to her. She gave some bullshit reason tonight, but that's bullshit. Right? Again, thank you for listening. Make sure you don't have a bunch of yes men around you. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.